Is that what you wanted?
Rex?
Take me home.
So, like iCarly, ships were a really big part of the Victorious fandom, only not to the same degree, but that also is probably because the Victorious show was not as popular as iCarly. I also think that because the writers never really made any effort to develop any of these relationships, even the relationships where the characters were actually dating, like Beck and Jade, none of the ships ever really took on a life of its own in the way that Creddy and Seti did. Like I said in my last video, the most viewed episode of iCarly ever and the second most watched episode in all of Nickelodeon history was a Creddy episode. An episode where Carly and Freddie dated for like 5 minutes and immediately broke up. Contrast that with the fact that the most viewed episode of Victorious was Begging on Your Knees, and that's the episode where Tori dated a random guy and dumped him by the end of the episode. We never did see Ryder ever again. But none of the Victorious ships were ever as popular as Creddy or Seti, which is even weird when you consider the fact that there were so many more Victorious ships to choose from. Because the cast was so much bigger, there's pretty much a potential ship for everyone. So I thought in today's video, we could go through every single one of Victoria's ships, see how they were poorly written and handled, and why they probably would never make good pairings to begin with anyways. Beck and Jade. So Beck and Jade are really the only ship pairing that actually lasts or was actually explored throughout the show. Yet they're probably most known as one of the more toxic pairings. Beck and Jade have a pretty toxic relationship. They fight a lot and argue a lot, and they've even broken up twice throughout the series. But they can't seem to keep away because they always get back together in their toxic relationship. Now, one of the biggest talking points about the ship is really who's responsible for the ship being this toxic. I've always felt that they were both equally responsible for being really bad to each other, but some people believe the relationship was toxic because of Jade, other people believe Beck is the real villain. So let's get into it. Beck and Jade from the very beginning have always been up and down and very confrontational, but in my opinion, they're both at fault for the dysfunction in their relationship, and sometimes the source of conflicts in their relationship stems from Tori. So in the pilot episode, when Tori first even met Beck and Jade, it was under this really awkward circumstance of her seductively wiping coffee off his shirt after spilling it on him.
Dude, why are you rubbing my boyfriend?
And Jade walks in and sees her boyfriend having somewhat of a flirtatious encounter with a strange girl she's never met before, and she gets understandably annoyed. I think what really undercuts Jade's valid frustration in this moment, and why so many people paint her as the toxic one in the relationship, is because she takes her frustration out on Tori and never Beck. But Tori's an innocent bystander in all of this. She has no idea who any of these people are. She met a cute boy and all of a sudden she's being relentlessly bullied by his girlfriend because of one brief encounter where she somewhat gazed into his eyes flirtatiously for 5 seconds. I also think Jade's response to feeling rightfully annoyed by the situation was just entirely disproportionate to the transgression and way too focused on Tori. She pours coffee on her, makes her bark like a dog, like it's a bit much. Whole time she's kissing Beck and flirting with him, and it's like, he's the problem here, not Tori. And when Tori and Beck kissed at the end of the episode, I had 2 feelings about it. One, Beck knows that his long-term girlfriend does not like this person. Whether she's justified in feeling that way or not, that's just the fact. Jade does not like Tori, and when Tori asked to kiss him, he thought it was fine to kiss a girl that his girlfriend clearly had an issue with right in front of her. I'm gonna be honest, I think Jade had every right to be mad. I'm just not sure why she's not mad at Beck. Like, he's the one you're dating. I've always had a problem with Beck too, because he presents himself as this really cool good guy, but he antagonizes his girlfriend who he knows is jealous, and even when it comes to Tori, it's not like he's actively defending her from Jade. He's just so passive. He just sits there with a disapproving face as his girlfriend bullies this poor girl. So in this situation, Beck is just completely in the wrong for me. I'm on Team Jade. Then Beck and Jade broke up in the Chicago episode, which, I don't know, I think the Chicago play was definitely the more interesting storyline. Chicago! Beck begins hanging out with a pretty and famous celebrity who constantly messages him non-stop. Jade gets frustrated with the relationship and breaks up with Beck in the heat of the moment. You know, Jade does describe herself as a jealous person, and I do think that she tends to overreact, oftentimes in an aggressive way, but I don't think this was just jealousy. Jade's very territorial when it comes to Beck, but in this instance, this was less about her not wanting Beck to be friends with other girls, and more so about wanting to put up a boundary to say, hey, maybe this girl doesn't have to be reaching reaching out to you multiple times a day. But Beck just kind of completely dismissed Jade's feelings and said she was just being ridiculous. Then to make matters worse, once they break up, he flaunts this new girl in Jade's face and has her drive him to school. Like, that's just petty. And you guys say Jade's the mean one? I honestly would have loved for Beck and Jade to stay broken up because that would have opened up a clear path for Tori and Beck to be together. But also, I just never liked Beck and Jade's relationship anyways. Like, they're both so mean to each other. This was just not a loving relationship at all. Anyways, Jade runs back to Beck to beg him to take her back and he rejects her. So she has to get Tori's help and together they come up with a plan to get Beck a dog because Beck said he wouldn't want to get back together with Jade because she's never done anything nice for him, even on his birthday. Which just opens up a huge can of worms for me because if that's true, Beck doesn't seem to like Jade that much, so why are they together? Like, if Beck doesn't like the fact that Jade isn't a sweet person, what's drawing him to her? How is this relationship being held together? Anyways, the dog mauls Beck's dad and Jade apologizes and Beck kisses her and says this.
You love me again.
Who said I stopped?
What? You were just ranting to Tori about how you don't think Jade is a good person and she's never done anything nice for you. Nothing has changed. In fact, now on top of that, she's gotten your dad in the hospital. Why do you guys like each other? So anyways, Beck and Jade got back together and they stayed together for another 2 seasons. They have moments of bickering and going back and forth, but for the most part, their relationship was stable and fine. However, eventually they started arguing a lot again. It got so bad, they won Worst Couple at a game show where they were the only actual couple. I also just like that in this episode, both Beck and Jade are irritated with each other, and in one scene, Beck admits to hating Jade so bad, he'd be fine with her getting hurt.
If we're gonna keep talking about Tori's phone, could someone please take me to a car door so I can slam my face in it?
I have a car.
Oh.
Like, I just think that's great. Anyways, eventually they continue to argue so much that the rest of the friends avoid being around them, and Beck eventually says that he's unhappy with the relationship and Jade walks out on him and they break up for a second time. This time their second breakup spanned multiple episodes, and at first they were awkward with each other. Jade started spending more time with Cat, but eventually they were able to be around each other again. Eventually a girl starts to show interest in Beck, and at first he was concerned about starting dating again, but Jade says she's fine with him seeing other people now that they're not together. The only problem is Beck hates every other girl. He finds them extremely boring and not interesting, and he says he wants to be with a girl who doesn't make it easy for him and challenges him.
Because it's not easy. Easy's boring.
So after Jade sings a song about being a badass, Beck approaches her, says he missed her, and the two get back together and stay together for the rest of the show. And you're probably sitting there thinking, wow, that was such a mess. And you know what? You're right. This arc of Beck and Jade breaking up for the second time is so frustrating for multiple reasons. One, it kind of re-emphasizes the idea that Beck and Jade don't really like each other that much, which makes the idea of them being together in the first place even more weird. But also, Beck's reasoning for getting back together with Jade is so stupid, because literally nothing has changed. Beck and Jade ended their relationship because they kept arguing and butting heads, but what's stopping that from happening again? After hanging out with a nice girl who, albeit doesn't have a mind of her own, he comes to the conclusion that he needs to be with a girl that challenges him, after Jade sings a song about literally not wanting to change and pushing back. That was the reason you guys broke up in the first place. What are you guys doing? Nothing has changed. Neither of you have grown. You're going to run into the same problems. And it's particularly frustrating because you know that the only reason the writers even introduced this idea was to make way for the far more popular Tori and Beck ship. But they didn't even do anything with that. They never allowed that relationship to blossom into anything. So it's like you broke Beck and Jade up, teased at making Tori and Beck a thing, only to pull the rug from under us and make things go back to exactly how they were before. And you know, it's typical for sitcoms to not allow their characters to grow or change out of fear of alienating early fans who liked the status quo. But I do think that ending Beck and Jade's relationship would have been fine if they would have just committed to actually making Tori and Beck a thing. The writers' refusal to fully lean into any of these ships is mind-blowing to me. But that leads us to our next pairing. Tori and Beck. So Tori and Beck is the most popular ship in the series, mostly because Nickelodeon constantly teased out this ship similarly to Creddy and Seti despite there being no actual relationship development in the show. Since the pilot episode, they hinted at a possible romance between the two, and since then there have been little hints and nods to Tori and Beck being a thing. What I found most interesting about the Tori and Beck ship is that the possibility or tease of them finally being together was more prominent in the show than them actually liking each other or being together. From an episode being called Beck Falls for Tori, even though that episode has nothing to do with the ship whatsoever, to our promo for the episode The Woods implying a romantic relationship between Tori and Beck, despite the fact that no such relationships developed in that episode.
That's what I want.
Oh, you want me to tickle your tummy?
Yeah, sure.
They have episodes of Tori playing Beck's romantic interest in plays, episodes of Beck and Tori hanging out, being close together, but never actually being together. This was really frustrating, especially if you were one of the people who preferred the Tori Beck ship. I was one of those people. I know it's basic, but I always liked the idea of Tori and Beck being together since the pilot episode, and it always bothered me that the writers just refused to ever just make it a thing. So anyways, after the pilot episode and Beck and Jade broke up for the second time, the writers finally gave Tori and Beck a chance. Well, not really. Beck and Jade's breakup actually lasted a really long time. It spanned 14 episodes. They broke up in season 3, episode 3, and got back together in season 4, episode 3. So pretty much an entire season worth of episodes where Beck and Jade are not together. But in that span of time, Tori and Beck only have 2 episodes where they address the Tori Beck ship. And in both of those episodes, it's about how much of a terrible idea it would be and why they can't date. I understand that Tori getting with Beck immediately after his breakup with Jade probably wouldn't make either of them look like good people, but I do think there was definitely a way to naturally have Beck and Tori start dating at least by the beginning of the next season. Maybe Jade has moved on and started dating someone else, and the development in her friendship with Tori makes her feel more secure about it. I don't know. But instead of that, we get 2 measly episodes about Tori feeling guilty about starting a relationship with Beck. In Tori Goes Platinum, Jade takes Tori's spot performing at the awards show, and Beck tries to comfort her about the situation. But unbeknownst to them, Jade is watching a live feed of their conversation, and in the heat of the moment, Beck leans in and tries to kiss Tori. Tori rejects him and explains why she feels uncomfortable kissing him. She says she doesn't feel comfortable doing that to Jade. And in response to that, Beck goes on about how much of a bad person Jade is, which is insane. He even tells her of a time where she rubbed her foot on Tori's sandwich, and it's like, okay, but why are you only telling her about that now? Why didn't you tell her about that before she ate the sandwich? This is why I say Beck is just a terrible person. He oscillates between thinking Jade is the love of his life to thinking she's the worst vile human being ever. And it's like the fact that Tori was the one considering Jade's feeling in all of this and not the guy that was dating her for 2 years is insane. Beck hates Jade. So anyways, Tori turns down Beck because of Jade, and Jade does the right thing and gives Tori back her spot, and Beck seems to respect her for that, but who cares what he thinks, honestly. The only other major development in the Beck and Tori ship is in the next season where Beck and Tori go on an opposite date. They wanted to hang out, but felt like if they hung out alone, then whatever they did would be like going on a date. So instead, they did everything you wouldn't do on a date, like dress in pajamas and eat barely edible street food. I just want to also point out that this was again Tori's idea of not wanting to pursue anything with Beck out of respect for Jade. Beck would have absolutely no issue dating the girl his ex-girlfriend hated for the past year. Jade finds out about the opposite date and gets jealous and hunts them down to find out if they're actually dating each other.
So where are you guys right now?
The writers kind of made a meta-narrative commentary, kind of I guess explained the dilemma they were having when it came to the Tori and Beck ship, about why it would be awkward for Tori and Beck to actually get together.
Maybe his ex-girlfriend,
Jade?
Jade? Maybe she still likes this boy with the hair.
I actually felt that they made some good points about why it might be awkward to have Beck and Tori date, especially since at this point in the show, Tori and Jade's relationship really developed over time. But then I remembered, this is a TV show. They can write these characters however they want, and they can make Jade come to terms with Tori and Beck in a way that fits the narrative. I also think it would be a really good development for Jade's character too, overcoming her jealousy and learning to be more understanding. But for some reason, they were just so fixated on this idea that it would be impossible to make Beck and Jade a thing. And then at the end of the episode, Jade said she was fine with it anyways, so now what's the excuse? I just think they could have really had something here, but you know what? Maybe the right answer is taking Beck out of the equation altogether. Tori Tori and Jade. So the relationship between Tori and Jade have always been a bit tumultuous. They started off pretty much being enemies, Jade being really fixated on making her life miserable, but around the halfway mark of the first season, they were kind of okay. I wouldn't say they were besties, but they definitely didn't seem to hate each other that much. Jade always kind of took some delight in Tori's pain, and she never really called Tori a friend, but Tori oftentimes went out of her way to help Jade. When Beck and Jade broke up, both times, Tori helped them get back together. When Jade wanted to put on a play, Tori helped her. So throughout the show, there were all these small hints of Tori and Jade liking each other and dating.
Don't be shy.
The only episode that really explored this idea was the episode called Tori and Jade's Playdate. Boy, the writers sure love their clickbait episode titles. In the episode, Tori and Jade are playing wife and husband in a school play, but during rehearsals, they struggle to play a believable couple. Psychowitz thinks it's because they don't get along, but I don't know, it might just be because they're not attracted to each other. Or are they? Because Psychowitz's plan is to have Tori and Jade go on a fake date so they can do a better job of playing a real couple. Initially, the date was a little awkward, but after a while, they opened up and talked through their issues of why they don't get along. Jade says it's because she just doesn't like Tori. But I don't know, I think at this point, this is the third Tori and Jade don't get along episode, and I think this is definitely a symptom of a sitcom's refusal to let characters grow and evolve. Because we've already had episodes where Tori and Jade address the issue of why they don't get along, and by the end of those episodes there is some development and reconciliation, but the show always hits the reset button and any progress Tori and Jade makes in their relationship is completely undone. So Jade saying that she doesn't like Tori despite not having a real reason to just feels so contrived. I mean, we had that episode where they were doing a stage fight and by the end of the episode they kind of forgave each other for their transgressions and agreed to try to get along. Then there was that other episode where Tori agreed to help fund Jade's play, and by the end of that episode they seem to be even more closer as friends. So it's like, what happened to all of that development? Did we just flush it down the toilet? To put things into perspective, after this major development in their relationship where it seems like Tori and Jade are finally able to be friends again, Jade takes Tori's spot only a couple episodes later in the Platinum Music Awards episode. And in an episode after that where Tori is struggling to find a ride to school, it's heavily implied that Jade was trying to murder Tori and bury her body in the desert. And it's such a huge tonal whiplash coming from this to end up at this. But anyways, I honestly would have loved the idea of Tori and Jade dating. I think they complement each other really well and work as a great foils to each other even as friends. But because things always have to stay the same and no characters can ever grow, any meaningful developments in the Tori and Jade relationship is immediately undone. And it's so unfortunate because a Tori-Jade relationship would be so much more interesting than anything including Beck. I mean, who doesn't love a good enemies to lovers storyline? Tori, Beck and Jade. Okay, so this one is completely headcanon. There was never really any meaningful hint at the possibility of all these characters just becoming a throuple. However, the more you think about it, the more it's a good idea, right? I think the Beck and Jade relationship is really toxic on their own. They always come to the brink of breaking up, but who always helps put them back together? Tori. Tori is the key to the Beck and Jade relationship lasting. On their own, they bring out the worst in each other, but Tori is able to act as a foil and resolve any conflict they might have. I really think this could work, and I mean, Beck already likes both of them anyways. He wants someone who can challenge him, and he can get that from Jade, and he wants someone who would care enough to get him a gift for his birthday, and he can get that from Tori. I think this might be the answer to all of our problems, honestly. Tori gets to date Beck without feeling guilty about betraying Jade because she's dating her too, and Jade gets to keep Beck and finally channel all of her sexual tension she feels about Tori into being with her rather than trying to kill her. This is the relationship we should have gotten. It's honestly what we deserve the most. Tori and Andre. Speaking of ships the writers refuse to acknowledge, we have Tori and Andre. I think it's weird that the writers never acknowledged or tried to make this a thing. Andre and Tori probably have the closest relationship out of everyone in the group, and it's clear they're really close and it seems pretty obvious as a ship, yet we never get any real meaningful romantic development in this relationship. Not even one of those subtle "I've been having weird dreams about my friend and I don't know what they mean." And on one hand, I do like the idea of a strictly platonic male-female relationship, but no other characters as close as them in the show stayed strictly friends. They had no issue shipping other friend characters together, so why draw the line here? I mean, for God's sake, they gave Andre a crush on Jade of all people, when they were never even really close and hardly ever even interacted with each other. Speaking of which, Andre and Jade. Yeah, so this was weird, right? I'm not the only one who thought this came out of left field, right? There's an episode where Andre develops a crush on Jade, which is hilarious because he started the episode being terrified of Jade.
I am gonna kill him!
After working with him on a new song, he started developing feelings for her, which made him start panicking because he and Beck are best friends. Which, I don't know, Andre doesn't seem closer to Beck than anyone else in the group. I've always felt that Tori was closer to Andre than Beck was, but I digress. I think the Andre storyline was definitely the writers going, okay, which ship haven't we addressed yet? And just haphazardly threw Jade and Andre together, despite not even giving Andre and Tori a fair chance. By the end of the episode, Tori helps Andre get over his crush by singing his feelings to her but replacing all of Jade's name with baby. They performed the song in front of Jade, and all it took was another hot girl flirting with Andre for him to get over it and move on. And that's it. That's the Jade and Andre ship. You know, I don't think this is a bad pairing in theory, but I do think that considering the fact that they've never been close and Andre is deathly afraid of Jade, it feels like it came out of nowhere. Just like this next ship. So Andre and Cat is a ship I actually like that they never really explored either. Andre and Cat definitely have more of an older brother, younger sister type relationship. I only say younger sister because of how the show infantilizes Cat. There was only one interaction that I thought was cute enough to play into the Cat-Andre ship. It was the episode where Jade and Beck broke up for the second time. During the Worst Couples game show, Cat got a little excited and tried to give Andre a hug, and he says this.
Easy now, don't start something you can't finish.
I don't know, I thought it was really cute, and he always has these cute little nicknames for her, but Andre and Cat never really had any further development beyond that. And honestly, I would have liked to see them together. I think they make a cute couple. Cat and Robbie. So Cat and Robbie is another really prominent ship in the show and is one of the few ships that the writers actually acknowledge. From the beginning, Robbie and Cat have always had a very flirty relationship. The earliest examples of this I could think of was when Robbie was helping his grandmother out with her internet problems and he invited Cat to help him. Robbie's grandmother was very critical of Cat, especially when he thought Robbie was dating her.
A girl doesn't dye her hair that color unless she has psychological problems.
My hair color has nothing to do with my psychological problem.
Then there was that time Robbie became obsessed with Trina after they had a stage kiss, and Kat tried to prove to Robbie that the kiss didn't mean anything and Trina was just acting. To do so, she kisses Robbie passionately and Robbie responds with,
I want you to meet my parents.
Kat kisses him and Robbie wants to get married. Anyways, since then, there's only been sporadic indications of Robbie and Kat being together. There was an episode in season 2 where Tori is hosting Hollywood Art's first ever prom, and Robbie really wants to ask Kat to be his date. They've been flirting back and forth, but this was the first ever real indication of Robbie and Kat progressing their relationship. Unfortunately, Kat said someone already asked her out to the dance. Robbie's really disappointed, but Rex convinces him that Kat lied about having a date, just so she wouldn't have to reject him. So throughout the episode, he hints at her lying, and finally confronts her when he's yet to see her supposed date at the dance. Turns out that Kat really did have a date and she wasn't lying at all. I like that the conclusion wasn't really that Kat had no interest in Robbie whatsoever, just that she really did have other plans. Another huge episode in the Robbie Cat ship is the Blonde Squad episode. In the episode, Kat is starring in one of Beck's terrible movies, and so has to wear a blonde wig and blue contacts to play the character. While wearing the costume, she's asked out by a guy, but he assumes she's a natural blonde with blue eyes, and Kat is terrified of letting him know the real her. Throughout the episode, Robbie is really angry when Kat talks down about herself, thinking she's not good enough, and you can tell he's really uncomfortable with Kat dating someone she has to change so much of herself for. Anyways, Kat commits to wearing the costume while she goes out with him, but eventually he finds out exactly what Kat looks like and dumps her because he only dates blonde girls. Kat is devastated, so to cheer her up, Robbie writes an original song, pouring out all his feelings about how he really feels about her and how he thinks she's great just the way she is.
What if I just dye my hair blonde?
But yeah, it kind of just went over Kat's head. In the final season, we get probably the biggest developments in the Robbie-Kat relationship arc. Hollywood Arts is throwing a party, and Kat is terrified that Robbie is going to ask her out, so she avoids him and literally runs away from him because she doesn't want Robbie to ask her out, which is just insane. Because at that point, it never seemed as if Kat didn't reciprocate Robbie's feelings, it was just more so that other things got in the way. Like in the prom episode, I never got the impression that had Kat not been asked out that she would say no to Robbie. But anyways, in this episode, the thought of going out with Robbie to the party literally terrifies her. Robbie was able to ambush her and put her fears to rest, saying he's not going to ask her out and instead is going to the party with another girl. At first, Cat seems happy and grateful that Robbie is going with someone else, but then...
Gabriella.
Yeah, she completely freaks out. Kat is so jealous and overwhelmed with the idea of Robbie going out with someone else that she makes it her personal mission for the entire episode to make Robbie jealous. It really does seem like at this point Robbie has resolved within himself that nothing will ever happen between him and Kat, so he's just trying to move on. But Kat operates in the space of not being able to handle her feelings of Robbie being unavailable to her, while also not wanting to actually date him, so it's a pretty tricky situation. Anyways, at the end of the episode, Robbie and Kat are able to share a moment and Robbie kisses her, and Kat panics and runs away, just completely incapable of handling the fact that she might actually have feelings for Robbie. The Kat-Robbie ship continues somewhat in Sam and Kat, where Sam uses Robbie to get back at Kat after she started hanging out with Freddie behind her back. The worst part about this episode is that Robbie played the I Think You're Swell song he wrote for Kat to Sam and kisses her, which is just insane. At the end, Robbie and Kat kind of reconcile and hint at possibly hanging out sometime, but never really anything concrete. Anyways, that's it. That's a Robbie-Kat ship, which honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of. I can't talk about this relationship without addressing the elephant in the room. So throughout the show, it is kind of hinted that Robbie is a little bit of a perverted stalker. And this behavior was not only targeted at Kat, Robbie was pretty weird when it came to all the girls in the cast, but he does seem to have somewhat of an obsession with Kat, which honestly would make perfect sense about why she would be so hesitant to go out with him. But even more than that, it is heavily implied in the show that at some point, Robbie sexually assaulted Kat. It's never explained, but there's this pirate joke that they make a lot where Robbie did something to Kat when they played pirates.
I don't see why we can't just pretend to be pirates.
I'll play pirates with you.
No, I don't like how you play pirates. I'm so upset.
Did you try to play pirates with her?
No.
Bobby, I'm bored. I don't want to play anymore.
All right, well, do you want to play something else?
Like what?
No!
And she is so traumatized by it that it literally brings her to tears. So I don't know, having that joke and then trying to make them a thing, I don't think I really want to see Robbie and Kat in a relationship together. He just has too much of an obsessive behavior, which brings us to Robbie's creepy behavior to other girls.
He won't even know I'm there. I'll hide in that bush on your patio.
He'll see you.
You never have.
I know, but what? Robbie Shapiro!
Yes.
Where'd you get those standees of Cat?
I just, brought them from home. Hi!
Oh my god.
Hey, Trina.
What?
You want to know my two favorite things about you?
Hey, looky what I got.
No, I don't want to see that thing again. Put it away.
Does Cat know you have these?
No, and don't tell her. Well, we could stay back here and snoodle.
Gross. That was really fun.
Yeah, maybe we should make out sometime.
Robbie, you're so gross.
These aren't mine.
Robbie and Beck. You know, maybe the issue is Robbie just needs to be who he is and act on his feelings for Beck. It's been somewhat hinted that Robbie has a crush on Beck. Most times it's played that Robbie's impressed at how easily Beck is able to get girls and he's a bit jealous of that. But there have been times where it seems Robbie just likes Beck.
Man, those jeans fit you great.
Alright, nope. You're not smiling.
I only smile when I'm happy.
Okay, talk to Daddy.
I actually like this ship. I think Robbie and Beck would be such a cute couple. I think Beck could help Robbie be more confident and come out of his shell, and maybe Robbie can help Beck stop being such a piece of shit. Other ships. So there are other Victorious ships that I either don't like, or there was just not enough evidence in the show to kind of support the idea that these ships were actually a thing. Cat and Jade. Starting off is Cat and Jade. I don't know. I just never got any romantic vibes from Jade and Cat. I understand why people like the idea of this ship. It's kind of a similar vibe to the Jade and Tori ship, but I honestly really like Jade and Cat as just friends, especially in the later seasons after Jade broke up with Beck and they became closer, even though Jade kind of just thinks of Cat as a pet.
No one likes Trina, and Cat's basically a pet. Arf! Play with the pretty keys.
KK.
Robbie and Tori. So Robbie definitely did have a crush on Tori, even Rex had a crush on Tori, but Tori was always weirded out by Robbie and found him unappealing, and like I said, Robbie's stalkerish attitude always made this ship also feel really weird to me. Trina and Anybody. Okay, so here's the thing. I really like Trina. She's one of my favorite characters in the show, but the show refused to ever give Trina a serious love interest. On one occasion, Robbie has an unhealthy obsession with her after they kiss. Trina for the most part has been shown to have a crush on Beck and was even excited when he and Jade broke up.
You guys might break up because I'm not dating anyone, and I've always thought that Beck and I would make the perfect...
And throughout the series, Trina has always struggled to get a boyfriend. And then they wrote the most mean-spirited episode ever where Trina tells people that she and Beck are dating so more guys would be interested in her. And to get her back for this, the guys each pretend to be obsessed with her just to have her look crazy. And I don't know, would it have been so hard to earnestly have Trina date one of the guys? Any one of them?
What is this?
It was meatloaf.
It's so especially jarring because Daniela Monet is an objectively really attractive woman. So it's so weird watching a show where someone as beautiful as Trina is always depicted as being unappealing to every single guy she comes across. And I always wondered how actors who have to play characters where in the meta context of the show they are very unattractive, like does that affect your self-esteem? It has to, right? I just wish they would have earnestly allowed Trina to be with someone. Like it wouldn't have killed you guys. So that's it. Those are all the major Victorious ships. Let me know what you guys think. What ships were your favorite? If you agree with any of my points, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.